Pleasure to welcome Yvette Hawks to the room, to the space. Yvette will be facilitating a workshop on business planning. Do you need to back up? A little bit about Yvette. Yvette Hawks is a certified coach practitioner, workshop facilitator, and small business consultant based in Winnipeg, Manitoba. From 2002 to 2014, Yvette co-owned and sold 2 businesses and was recognized as a co-finalist for the 2013 Women's Entrepreneur of the Year Award. In yeah, we can do those. That's a nice thing to share with people. In 2016, Yvette started a self-named venture, YvetteHawks.com, which led to facilitating classes, consulting with startups, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations. Yvette is a proud citizen of the Manitoba Métis Federation, a visual artist, creative writer, and an adventurer in training. Please take it away, Yvette.
I am not a typical presenter. I'm more used to giving a lot of content or I'm telling you how to do things because I do startup work. So my presentation is very slide heavy, meaning there's a lot of content here because I want you to kind of engage in the conversation and be able to get the information rather than scrambling to write things down that I'm saying. So and you will get copies of the slide presentation at the end, okay? There's a lot of live links I've embedded for information. So there's a little bit of a workshop component to this, but it's more so of me giving you some information about how to backtrack and start up your business, okay? So did you start a creative business during the pandemic? And if you did, great, and congratulations. In your excitement to start selling, did you skip over a few setup steps? Let's back up and see if you did. So an overview of what I'm going to be talking about in the next, I think, 30 to 40 minutes. I'm going to try to keep it at 40 minutes so that we have about 10 minutes for questions if there are any at the end. Okay. So there's a backup checklist is what I like to call this for this particular talk. Choosing a business structure. So we're going to talk about that. Naming and registering your business. Banking, permits, licenses, and insurance. Bookkeeping, income tax reporting. And then the dreaded business plan that no one likes to talk about, especially creatives. We don't like business plans. Okay. And then if we have time at the end, obviously, for questions. And I wanted to let the group know is those that are in person here have access to, Gwen kindly printed out a copy of the checklist that I'm going to be following along with in this presentation. For those of you at home, I didn't have the foresight to ask one if it could be emailed to you, so my apologies. But at the end of the talk here, there's a QR code for the screen that will give you access to both a PDF version of the checklist with all of the information links embedded in that, as well as a PDF of this exact presentation with all of the links embedded. So all the links in the PDF are live as well, so that you have to take minimal notes. Right? So you can just sort of think about maybe any questions that you might like to ask at the end, those things to jot down. Okay, you can tell I'm a bit nervous. This is my first time in front of a group of people in 3 years. I've been doing this a lot on Zoom, but in person, I'm like, oh. And then I was explaining to, sorry, I'm pointing over here and saying Gwen, but it's Robin's over here. Gwen's over there. I was explaining her with this like hair oil, you know, for static. So I'm ripping off clothes and I really love this jacket. I love it, but it is not a good one for standing in front of people. It's good on Zoom because you don't have to worry about what's going on down here. But I might be pulling up my pants and pulling down my shirt a lot. So I apologize for that too as well. I don't know. I think it looks okay, but every time I lift my arms, it goes up and oh no. I'll figure it out. Okay. So choosing a business structure. There's different types of legal business structures. There's a corporation or an incorporation. We're mostly used to hearing about that. Under the umbrella of corporations, there's cooperatives, which have owned by members. Partnerships can also be incorporated, which you have more than one owner. A partnership can be unincorporated and also have more than one owner. And then there's sole proprietorship, which is one owner. And most creatives, we start out as a sole proprietorship. Actually, most startups start out as a sole proprietorship. So that's the one I'm going to focus on during the content of what we're talking about here this morning. Okay. It's the most common structure for new businesses. You file one income tax return. It's a combination of your personal income plus your business income. And the fiscal year is January 1 to December 31st. So fiscal year is kind of a bit of a bookkeeping businessy term. So if you don't know what that means, fiscal year is a 12-month accounting period that a business uses for financial and tax reporting purposes. A fiscal year is also known as a financial year. So for sole proprietorship, it matches our personal income tax reporting period, which is January 1 to December 31st. If you were to start an incorporated business or creative business, you get to choose any 12-month window as a start and end date, okay? So typically though, most creatives, we start out as sole proprietorship. And I should have asked there, has anyone incorporated a business or gone to that? Have incorporated? Yes. And there's good reasons for doing so. And that's something that you might want to talk with an accountant or a lawyer about the benefits of becoming an incorporation versus a sole proprietor. I'm just focusing on sole proprietorship right now because it is the most common. We seem to all start there and then eventually incorporate once we get an idea of what business is. Okay. So naming your business, some considerations. Does it reflect the product or service you offer? So what I mean by this is, let's say you are a jewelry maker, you make and sell jewelry, but your business registering your business. So you've chosen a business name, you love it, you've checked it out, you can get a domain name that's going to work for you, your social media accounts are all in line, but now you have to register it. So you would submit a request for business name reservation online or in person at the company's office, and it's $45 per search. So this is why it's important to do a little bit of investigating yourself first about a business name, because if you go to the company's office, they do the search and they come back and say, no, we can't allow you to register this name for these reasons. You have to pay $45 for your next search. There's a little bit of leeway there. It may depend on who you get on the phone when you're talking to them about the possibilities of this. Let's say though, and I've worked with a lot of clients and startups that have done this, they loved a name, they spent money on graphics to get a logo done, everything like that. They go to register it, they can't have it. And they've already put all this investment into the graphic side of it. Or they may have started promoting themselves already under that name. If that happens to you, is to check with the company's office if you put the word Winnipeg or Manitoba after it. Because now typically a business name, it gets denied because someone in our province is using it, or it's in another province. So many people I've worked with have had success going back and re-registering their name with Winnipeg or Manitoba added at the end. It doesn't mean it has to be on your logo. You don't have to redesign your logo. It just means on all your legal documentation, like contracts, if you're getting a contract, I gotta slow down here. I'm getting nervous. Okay. If you're getting a contract such as this to present at Creative Manitoba, you would, on the legal name for your company, you would put Manitoba or Winnipeg, whatever that extra word was. But that has saved a lot of people from losing this beautiful design that they already came up with. It was adding just another word to the end. Okay. And anywhere on the PDFs where you see the link with it underlined, that's where on the PDF document, if you hover over it, it'll give you a link to the company's office. So that's how the links work here. So the next step is if you're approved, you have 90 days to register the business as a sole proprietorship, and that's at a cost of $60. You'll receive a business number and documentation, and the business number must be renewed every 5 years. And I just checked online yesterday, and it says that they used to send you out a renewal notice, and they don't anymore. Now it says it's up to the business to monitor your 5-year process and renew yourself. So just a heads up, we used to get letters in the mail, and I just saw it because I'm wondering, I should have been getting one, and I checked and it did not. So they've switched that around now. Okay. I don't expect you to be able to read this, but I just wanted to put a screenshot of what the website looks like when you log into the company's office portal so that you're kind of familiar. You can say, okay, I recognize that. And I'm not going to go a lot into GST and PST because that's a whole other talk in itself. But I wanted to show you, for those of you that haven't registered and you're not sure what a business number looks like, it's the 9-digit number. So the first one on the right is the basic business number that you'll receive when you register a business name. When you go to register for GST or PST, which is now actually called RST, isn't that more confusing? Instead of provincial sales tax, it's now retail sales tax. Who knows why? You'll receive the little extra on the end. So for GST, it's RT001. And then for PST, it becomes MT001. So your business number always stays the same. When you register for sales tax, they just add a different entry on the end. In your business, if you start to generate payroll and you have employees, there's an additional business number with a payroll account number on the end. So it's always your business number plus an add-on at the end. Okay. Banking. Okay. So opening a business bank account. I'm trying to think, I may be going too fast. We might have a lot of time for questions, which is not bad after. Okay. So opening a business bank account. What to bring with you. You want to bring personal photo identification, the copy of your business registration documentation, and make sure that the business number is written on it, like it's legally written on it, that form you need. You can't open a business bank account without a business number. Okay. A copy of the partnership agreement, if applicable, if you're having a partner, and both partners need to be present to sign documents. Okay. And you may be able to apply online now. I did a little bit of searching with most of the major, not most, I picked about 3 of the major lenders in the city here. Many of them have a section now saying, need a business bank account, apply online. I didn't click to see what was involved, but I imagine that you still will have to sign to some sort of legal signing documentation when you're signing up for a business bank account. I'm asked, do you need a business bank account? Like, why would you want to separate? As a sole proprietor, you have to separate it. These are one of the things that CRA looks for to identify you as you're really treating your creative business as a business, is when you start to separate your business and personal assets from each other. If you happen to get audited, it is very rare, but if you do, CRA loves seeing all of your financials, especially separated. Business bank accounts aren't expensive. Back when I had the 2 companies, that through the introduction was explaining there. I think it was about almost about $17, $18 a month for each account, business bank account for just your regular fees. Now it can be $0 to $5 to start a business bank account, depending on where you bank. So it's quite affordable. It's not a huge expense anymore. But if nothing else, to separate out a business bank account for your business, CRA, this is one of the things they're looking for. Okay. A little bit about the business credit card too. Having a separate credit card for your expenses is also fantastic because, again, for CRA, for auditing, if you're mixing up your personal and business expenses onto one account, that's something else that they don't like to see. What you'd have to do is submit all your personal credit card statements and mark which ones are business and which ones are personal. They don't like that. So applying for a business credit card at the bank can be tricky. Even if you've been banking it, let's say you've been a RBC client for years, your mortgage and everything is there. They give you the business bank account and you ask for a credit card. You may not be qualified for a business credit card until you've had anywhere from 3 to 6 months of activity through that bank. They want to know that you actually are making sales, that you have enough money in there to pay a balance if they were to give you a credit card. So in lieu of that, many of us, not all of us, may have more than one credit card, a personal credit card. So I would recommend is getting one card to a $0 balance, if that's possible, then designating, this is all my business purchases going forward. You can use a personal credit card. In the bookkeeping section, it's just entered a little bit differently. It's like an owner's contribution to the company is what it's called. That's a fancy term. But you can use a personal credit card for business purchases, but I encourage you to separate the two out wherever possible. There again, if you're going shopping and you're mixing things up, like maybe you're going to, I don't know, I'm going to say Walmart, and you've got some food purchases for home, plus some envelopes for work or some paper for your office stuff, separate them on the conveyor belt. And when you go to pay for them, just let them know I'm paying with the same card, but I just need 2 receipts. That's even, keep it clean. Like if you have to pay with a personal card, keep it clean with a separate receipt at least. Okay, just some heads up on different things there. Permits and licenses. Home-based business permit within this is issued by the City of Winnipeg. So for those of you that are here or that are attending online that aren't within the City of Winnipeg, this does not necessarily apply, but you should check with your own municipality to see if they have a similar home-based business permit, okay? So if business mail comes to your home and or administrative duties are conducted from your home, home-based business development permit is required by the City of Winnipeg zoning law. And about 5 years ago, it wasn't required. Now I went back to the website, it says it is required. So I called yesterday and talked to a really nice fellow named Jeremy, by the way. He said, let everybody know to give me a call. He said, I can answer questions. I said, are you the only one? He goes, I'm the head of it. He goes, if you call, you'll get Jeremy. So anyway, Jeremy, call him if you need to. And he said, yes, that you do need the business home-based business permit. And I don't believe you're going to be penalized. I didn't ask this, but I should have. If you don't already have one, you've been operating as a business, I don't think they will penalize you because you just plead ignorance. So I just heard about this yesterday that I may need one of these. Okay. It's a flat rate of $168. And you only have to reapply as if you change address, which kind of makes sense, okay? Now, if you're renting a home, where it be a condo, apartment, an actual house, you need your landlord to sign off on a letter of authorization that gets included with your application. And these documents are available for download at the 2 links that I've provided. There's like link 1 and link 2. Link 1 is sort of like a general information. And then within link 1, there was a link to here are the forms. So I've included both links here, okay? And if you have staff or clients coming to your home, in our line of work with creatives, maybe you have a studio space in your home and you teach workshops out of your home space. If that's the case, you need to apply for conditional permit. And a conditional permit allows other people to be coming on and off your property. And that's when you almost see businesses will have a little zoning permit. You might see some homes in your area that got a zoning permit. You walk by going, what are they getting zoning for? Often it's for this. They're getting a conditional permit added to their home-based permit, okay? I'm not going to talk too much about licenses because they're not very exciting. But if you need to want to check out what licenses may also be applicable to your business as well as permits, BizPal Manitoba, and I've included the link there, they have an online searching portal where you put in where you live and what your industry is, and then it shoots you back a whole bunch of permits and licenses that you might want to take a look at that could be important for you, okay? Insurance. I'm just going to read this because I found a really good clip from the cooperators of an explanation of it. Should I insure my home-based business? It really depends on what your business activities are. If you have a lot of high-value equipment and no clients or employees coming to your house, it may be less expensive for you to add your equipment to your existing home coverage as an additional endorsement. Here they use the word endorsement. I'm more familiar with like a rider, where you add a rider to your current insurance policy. So you can do that as well, okay? If you do work for the government or other high-profile agencies, such as, I won't read the whole list there, you may want to consider errors and omissions insurance, which is required for some contracts. If you have visitors to your home for business purposes, or you have to cover business inventory, you want to have home-based coverage. Something to consider. You don't have to have it legally to operate a business. This is more for your protection. So I'm just putting it out there that it's something that you might want to explore depending on how much equipment you store at home. If someone was to go in and steal it, if you were to have any fire damage to there, how much would you lose and how much would it cost to replace? So it might be worth it to you to add a rider onto your current insurance policy. And that goes for apartment renters too. You can get a content insurance for renting an apartment as well. So it's something you might want to look at. Oh, discounted member rates. For those of you that belong to an association, maybe it's like an artist, a film association, a chamber of commerce, different associations like that. Check with the association because often they have member discounts to insurance, to permits, these types of application processes. Often you can get a discount through your association. So just check to see what's available before you purchase. Okay. So bookkeeping. So I'm a fan of bookkeeping. Many people go like, I happen to like bookkeeping, a little bit weird that way. Okay. So this is just a basic overview of bookkeeping. So I would suggest having separate spreadsheets or tabs on one spreadsheet. And I know most of us probably have an idea of what a tab is. When I say a tab on a spreadsheet, you have the little thing at the bottom that you click on that changes the spreadsheet page. Okay. So you have separate spreadsheets or tabs on or just one spreadsheet to record revenue, expenses, and inventory if inventory is applicable to you. So I just wanted to put up an example. So this is an expenses spreadsheet for office-related items. You might want to capture columns such as information such as date, vendor is the same word as supplier, a description of what you bought, a subtotal. Breaking out your taxes is also always recommended. And then a total, and I like to include payment method, just so if I happen to go back and figure out, did I pay with debit? Do I have to go back to my debit statements? Do I go to my credit card statements? Just to record that for myself. And I've also included a link to a bookkeeping template that I found was quite good. This isn't an example of that particular link. This is just one that I put together. Many different ways of doing this, many different templates available online if you'd like to do your bookkeeping yourself using a spreadsheet method. Okay. Now, the benefits of using accounting software, it saves time. There's autofill options for recurring expenses, handling of sales tax remittance reports, accurate financial reporting, etc. And these are different things that you're going to have to do at different points along your business. I really like how accounting software, you can go in at any time and generate what's called a profit and loss report. Basically, it's your revenue less expenses is how much do you have at the end of the day. And with software accounting, you can do that on the fly. You can do it based on a week, a month, a whole year to see what it's like. So you can always get a good record of where you're at in your business at any time. Okay. There's also data accuracy. It makes necessary calculations, automates tasks, and reduces errors. And you can also provide remote access to your bookkeeper or accountant. So if you happen to be working with a bookkeeper, that helps you out from time to time. Maybe you have someone that you've engaged for a couple hours at the start of your business to get you going with bookkeeping, showing you how to do it. You can have them access your software remotely. They log in, you say, I'm having a problem here. They look at it, they can guide you through what to do to fix it. So I find that this has actually been very helpful for me when I'm using the online software. Okay. Screenshot. This is a screenshot of the QuickBooks interface. This was just from their website. So I just clipped out a part of it there to show you what it looks like. So you get this kind of dynamic view when you're using online software programs. I've been using QuickBooks Online for years. I like it. Pros and cons to it, absolutely. It is subscription based. You pay a monthly fee for QuickBooks Online. There's, I believe, 4 levels that you can get to start out from, and you can downgrade and you can also upgrade depending on your needs. And if you go to the QuickBooks website, they have one of those charts where it says, if you get this one with all the check marks, you can do this and this with this one, this and this. Like some handle inventory and some of the lower level ones don't handle inventory. But if you don't have any inventory, why pay an extra $10 a month for a tool you're never going to use? So it lets you choose levels, but it is subscription based. Now, Wave Accounting, very similar. Like if I put a clip of her Wave Accounting, it'd be very hard to tell which is which. Very similar interface. Cool thing about Wave Accounting is that it is free. It does not have as robust reporting. You can do the profit and loss. You can do all the financial statements you'll need for reporting at tax time, but it is free up until the point that you get staff and you need to start processing payroll. The payroll module with Wave, now you're subscribing to Wave. So it's actually, if you're looking for a cost-effective way of getting started into bookkeeping with the software, why not start with Wave? I was using QuickBooks desktop version before I was introduced to the online version, so it just was a natural progression for me. Okay, just things to consider when you're looking at that. And depending on the type of work that you do, you may find that there's a better program online for you than either one of these two. If you're in a business where you want to book online appointments with clients, you want to be able to have the software directly invoice them after they've met with you, there are programs out there that are actually specific to what you want to do that cover bookkeeping, invoicing, expenses, client booking. So if you're going to pay a subscription on a monthly basis, you might be better off using a program like that that's more specific to what you want to do. So do a bit of digging with this. Okay, just put it out there. Income tax reporting. When the tax filing, what is the tax filing for sole proprietorships? April 30th is the income tax filing deadline for individual tax returns. Because you're going to be combining both your personal income plus your business income as a sole proprietor. But this is really weird. Sole proprietors have until June 15th to file, but CRA begins to assess interest, and I'm messing up those words, begins to assess interest on unpaid amounts starting May 1st. So unless you've prepared your income tax return by the end of April 30th, you know for sure you don't owe anything, how will you know that you're not going to be, and you wait till June 15th to file, and you find out that you owe money, you'll be actually charged interest backdated to May 1st. It makes no sense to me. Like I look at this and I'm like, I don't get it. So basically prepare your income tax return by April 30th. Skip that, because everyone comes to me and they'll say, well, I don't have to file to June 15th. I'm like, only if you're absolutely sure that you don't pay any taxes, I would do that. Okay. So just go by April 30th. If you're looking for a resource about different things like what expenses can be claimed and so forth like that, what CRA allows, the tax form T2125 is used to report self-employment or business earnings as a sole proprietorship. I have included a link to that. There's a PDF you can download. There is, I believe they have a guide, and I believe they have a version you can fill in online type of idea. And this is what, if you were having a small business income tax preparer do your taxes for you, this is the sort of like a digital version they'd be accessing to do your work for you. So if you wanted to see what that was ahead of time, downloading this form is a really good idea. It's not inclusive because we all have a few differences. If you do, if you're performing in a production where, let's say, the costume's not provided to you and you have to come up with your own costume, what you're wearing would be a business expense because you're wearing it during the act of doing that particular activity. But the T2125 form doesn't have that row in it. So it's not all inclusive, but some of the listings are there. Okay, it's a good place to get started. And keep all of your business records for 7 years, as we typically do now. Okay. The business plan, the lovely business plan. And there again, I happen to like business plans. I work with self-employment programs. I must have reviewed close to 100 business plans now, I'm going to say. I have helped individuals write maybe half that amount, like about 50 or 60 business plans. So I'm very, very involved with business plans. They can be fun and then they're not so fun. Okay, but why have one? To provide an overview of who you are, what you do, what you plan to do, and how you plan to do it. to submit for loan and grant applications. It could be the actual plan itself or specific content. For those of you that have applied for grants or had to go for a business loan, often the organizations will have their own template. And they say, here's the templates we need you to complete. But if you have a business plan written, it actually is quite time saving because you can just copy content in and then tweak it as you need to do that. Okay. When to write one. I want to say before starting your business, when I was coming up with this talk, I wanted to put business plan at the top, but we don't do that. That is just not like we just don't do that. We have a great idea. We're excited. Someone wants to buy my artwork. I'm selling it. Someone wants to buy another piece. I'm selling it. Business plan 3 years later. It's like, oh yeah, I guess maybe I should have thought about that. So ideally, if you can start one now, like before you kind of get deeper into your business, I would highly recommend that. But if nothing else, if you do not want to do a full business plan, I totally get it. It might not be necessary for your work, but I would encourage you to dig into the market research and marketing plan sections of a business plan. The market research and marketing plan, you'll figure out, you're looking at pricing strategy. Who are my customers? Where do they like to hang out? Where do they shop? What colors do they like? What music do they listen to? You'd be looking at who are my competitors? What's happening in the industry? Who else is doing what I'm doing? Where do they advertise? So you'll get a lot of really good information if you just dig into the market research side of things that will help with your own marketing. The marketing plan takes that a little bit further. Now that you know where you want to market, how are you going to market to them? And using a marketing calendar is not part of a typical business plan, but I encourage you to do this. Print out calendars like for the next 6 months on pieces of paper or digitally, and look at what events do I want to show at? What holidays are important to me coming up that I could be selling at? Because you want to start working on your marketing campaign 3 to 4 months, if not earlier, for that event. And then you can say, 3 months in, I have to start putting together this. At month 3, I'm going to send out my first notice that this is coming up, and so on and so on. So marketing calendars are huge. So if you don't want to do full business plan, those 3 things for artists, I would say focus on. Like, give yourself some time to work on that. Where am I going for here? Okay. Couple business plans options. There is the ever lovely formal business plan. This is just a list of the 9 sections that you will typically find in any business plan that you submit. And the screen clip, I don't expect you to be able to read that, obviously, but I just put a clip in of what a formal business plan 1 page would typically look like. But that's kind of boring for us creatives. So I threw in a couple options here that might be of more interest to you. So there's the 1-page business model canvas. This has become very popular. I've done many workshops with individuals where we do the business model canvas in lieu of a full business plan. It's excellent. You can do it on a big sheet of paper. It covers all the same sections. They just talk about it in a more fun way. It's worded a bit differently, so it's not as stuffy. And you could use, if you were doing on a piece of paper, you could use sticky notes in each of the sections, move your sticky notes around. It's visual. So for us creatives, we like it a little bit more. Then what you can do is the sticky notes, when you're happy with it, is then transpose that into a more formal document so that you have something to hand to a lender or a grant application that has a more formal look to it. Okay. 2 other options here. I really like this one here. I put a link to the bookstore. I put a link to McNally actually, because I'm a McNally fan of where you can get this book from. The Right Brain Business Plan. As you can see by the picture, it's kind of blurry there, so it's not the best image. It's actually how to do a business plan through collage. Oh, who doesn't want to do collage? Well, maybe not all of us, but I get pretty excited. It's through collage and doodling and making notes like that. Same idea as the business model canvas, but now what you do is once you've done all your collaging, it gives you prompts about how to think of same sections, asking in a more creative, fun way your ideas about the sections. Same thing, when you're done something like this, you can go back, transpose it into a more professional template if you need it, or just leave it and work with it as it is until such time as you may need the information and have to put it into words instead of pictures. But I love this. So there's that one. I also came to this one, and it's a little bit hard to read there, so I'll read out the headings. It's called the planning process, and an artist came up with this method. So if you go to the link at the bottom to the website, you can download the template for this, plus a guide as to how to complete it. So the topics that she asks here are where are we now? Where are we going? How are we going to get there? And how will we know when we have arrived? It covers all the same sections, but in a more interesting way of looking at it. Okay, so these are other options for coming up with the business plan that aren't as stuffy, perhaps, as a formal business plan. I've also included, I won't go through these obviously, but a link of some other resources that I didn't mention within the content of this talk. One I wanted to point out, if you're not familiar with TinyWow, TinyWow is a website that has, I don't know how many free resources for software on there for business. Like it's like converting PDFs to JPEGs and JPEGs to PDFs, merging PDFs. I used it to generate a QR code, which is coming up on this slide. All types of little tasks, and they're all free. It's an excellent, excellent resource for business. So it's something that you might want to check out. It's tinywow.com. And as promised, those of you that would like a digital copy of the checklist and or the slide deck, I've included the instructions there. So for online, I had my sister test this. Gwen tested this for me, so I'm hoping that it's going to work out. If you hold your camera to the QR code, it'll get you to a shared Google Drive file with 2 folders in it that you can download, 2 files in it, 2 PDFs. And those PDFs have the live links to this talk. Okay, so I'll leave that up there for a minute. I'm just going to go to this one slide and then I can go back to that other one. Oh, wait, I see it one camera up, so I'll wait. And you might have to get in closer. I apologize. I don't know how clear that is. Okay, I'll wait.
Well, we are being sent these too.
Right? You can be sent these. I did not know that that was an option. So yes, you can be. Yeah. We will figure out, for those of you that need a copy that this doesn't work, get a hold of, is it contact Gwendolyn? Gwen, would that be? Just in case this doesn't work. I was trying out technology when I was messing around with TinyWow and I was like, oh, you can do a QR code. And I'm like, I'm going to try a QR code. So I was kind of messing a bit with that to see how it would go. Oh, wait, we've got one more camera up and then were the people that tried it out, was it successful? Did you get to a folder with 2 files? Okay. And we're getting the thumbs up online too. Excellent. It's for, whew, okay. It actually worked. Okay. So I know I am probably at the time where I need to be cut off from speaking here. Were there any questions? I just went over a very broad overview of these different areas, and I'm hoping that the links that I've included in the documentation will give you more information to dig a bit deeper on what you need to do. Yes.
Kind of possible, and as I guess all questions you don't know why I as an actor, like I'm my own business, like trying to people speak, but if I'm wanting to start my own business, like do you recommend? I guess it also depends on the business, but do you recommend keeping it to your name or actually, what's the pros and cons of that, of like having 2 businesses in a sense?
I personally like, as a creative, is keeping it to your name. When people call you, they're typically looking for you. Like when someone wants to buy a piece of pottery from you, they're typically, they recognize your name. So my experience with creatives, and anyone in the room here that already has been like using a name for their business, and that can maybe add to that as well. I have found that people are trying to identify us as a name, and our name becomes our brand.
Even if you're doing like separate things, like say, for that, like I want to start a gardening business, or in my case, I'm thinking about starting a baby business. So
Yep.
Keeping it as a product that you're posting.
You could, and then even on your website, you could have separate portals. Like here's a link to this business, to this business, to this business. Your social media accounts, because they're going to be marketed differently, you might want to choose in your social media accounts as has separate Instagram, maybe if Instagram is the platform that you're going to use. Because for some of the different ventures you have, it may be slightly different, if that's helpful. Before I get to your question, I'm just going to ask the people that have registered a business name or are using currently one, what are your thoughts on using your own name as opposed to a business name? Do you have thoughts? I'm going to go back. I'm sorry, I can't, there's a glare. Danny, yes, Danny, what were your thoughts on that?
I had like, not my name, but I had like a LBC Productions, because I do so many different things within the media of music. And so that kind of covers it sort of blankly, but all of my socials now are all changed to my name. People get me, but it's just the way I registered it like 30 years.
And it makes sense to me because that's back to that umbrella, right? You can do a lot of different items under more of a broad name, right? Correct. Thank you for sharing that, Danny. I'm going to go back.
Yeah, when I think of registering your business in your own name, the only thing that ever came up when I talked to other business owners is it becomes about liability. So if you have a business where something could happen, you know, like if I was a furniture store and someone broke their leg sitting on a chair or something, it's better to have it separate from your name. You know, like, and to me, that's the only thing that would. So, I mean, if you're just making things using your own name, that's great. It's the easiest way.
And it comes down to liability. Like when you're looking at liability too, because if you were to incorporate, if I was Yvette Hawks Incorporated, there's a separation there now of liability. When you incorporate it, you almost you're treated now as an employee of your business, not an owner anymore. So there's a bit of separation there, not 100%. So incorporating would help you out in that case. And that's why many of us, as we progress in our business, realize our business has grown. We have different types of contracts. We have different types of arrangements with employees or customers. And so we might want to incorporate then. And I totally understand where you're coming from too with that. Thank you for that, for sharing, for sure. Kate, you had.
Before we continue, I'm just going to ask for anyone who's speaking on this side of the room to really use your great presenting voices, just because the Zoom room is having a hard time hearing you. They can hear you, but they can't hear.
I might, so I'll go closer. You might pick up the mic for me then. Yes, Kate.
Oh, two things come to mind is when you incorporate, you can have different businesses underneath it. So my incorporation is Strings and Yarns. It includes my husband's guitar making business, Beers on Guitars. It includes Story Source. So you're able to put several businesses under one corporation, and it's cheaper to do that because we only have to file one accounting thing. And then I made sure to get katefriesen.ca. I couldn't get .com. But I got it, and I keep renewing it as a URL because even though I'm not using it as my business name, it's important for people to find it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Excellent comments about being incorporated. So I'm going to move over here to Mackie.
So I registered as a sole proprietor under a previous name that I used as a musician, and now I've changed my artist name. So what would you like? This is more of a question, I suppose. What would you suggest doing as an artist? Because I also am realizing that it's not just music for me. It's, you know, it's way more broad field of you know, jobs that I do. So do I just keep the name? It's Kenzie J Music, or do I like move towards something like an incorporation, which like would be maybe years down the road? Or like what would you suggest in this?
In that context, it's a hard one to say for sure without getting a bit more information about where you're at and like where most of your income comes from.
All right, so
Like
assuming that it's like I'm operating as, you know, three things that I do.
Okay.
Freelance, voice acting, crochet business, and then performing.
And you're currently registered as a business under the music.
Yes.
You can go back to the company's office and do an amendment and ask to change the name. The business number will stay the same.
Okay.
That legally you should be able to go back and even might want to shorten it to just your name. And then you could do all your creative endeavors, or it could be your name and change the music to creative.
Great.
Or creating or something, you know, artsy that works for you.
It's not like you couldn't necessarily claim certain, I don't know, things first. Say like I couldn't claim you on necessarily if my business is registered and I'm called Kenzie J Music. Like maybe I got that confused.
Oh, sorry. Okay, the question again that you couldn't claim or.
Yeah, maybe it was just a clarification of like, I think you were talking about something to do with filing your taxes and like kind of all the steps leading up to, you know, having this business. This is the vision. So let's say I'm selling, like, does it affect my like tax process? Like if I have several different businesses under one.
It wouldn't.
name?
This is what I had checked out because I do work with a number of bookkeepers as well that I help out with different things. And I've asked many questions. I'm always like, I can pick your brain about this. If you have like that T2125 form is what you would do is of all those businesses, we're going into a whole different topic. I'm going to end up into your lunch. We can talk about this over our lunch break thing too, because there's a little bit of a caveat to it. It's definitely doable. You can do more than one practice under your name. Like for YvetteHawks.com, I do artwork. I do all these types of things as well. I do some other freelance work for nonprofits, all under the same umbrella. So it's doable, but what you're technically doing for a CRA, there's something on that T2125 form called the NAICS code that you have to complete. And that's the North American Industry Classification System, big, long thing. And it's across North America. So you need to choose one number on that T2125 form. You have to pick one. So what you would do is you would take which one of those revenue streams are you making the most money from. So if you're operating as one sole, like that's for YvetteHawks.com, I pick the business one because it's the one I make the most money from. And that's what I put for the NAICS code. And the reason that the government uses that, it almost is like a benchmark. They like to track, you know, when you go to get stats for your business plan, for your market research, if you're doing that and you get the stats, they'll say, this is the number of people in your industry that are currently working this industry, and this is how much they made last year. So they're using your NAICS code as part of their stats collection. So that's where that comes in, but it is something on the T2125 form that you would report. A little bit of a different answer than what you were looking for, but just, I should have just thrown that out there for those of you that are wondering how you can do more than one practice under one name. Okay, but yes, we can definitely talk a little bit more during the break. I get a little bit more feel for what you're doing. Just for one more question, Dan, for sure.
Dollar value that you, before you incorporate, like I remember being told this like a long time ago. And like when is, I know it's like the business store, but is there a dollar point? And when you pay the fees, I think fees are fairly expensive, but are they each year you pay those fees for incorporation?
Oh, it's not every year that you pay for incorporation. I'm trying to think back to when I was incorporated. I recall back that about every 2 years we had to pay about a $55 to $60 amount to keep the corporation in good standing. To actually incorporate, you can do it yourself online for about $400 or less. And if you know that you're going to incorporate at the time of doing your business name registration, they'll include all the other fees as part of your incorporation fee. You can incorporate afterwards. So you could operate as a sole proprietorship first and then turn that name in. Into an incorporation, sorry. The first question that you had about the amount, all I can answer is that it varies. We were recommended to incorporate by our accountant when we got to a certain dollar amount threshold. I do not know why he chose that amount. And it also had to do with liability. We were working with more and more clients that were asking us that we needed to have errors and omissions, that one type of insurance that I was speaking of. And so we would end up and get these short-term policies for errors and omissions more and more often. So one of the things that we found is if we incorporate, it also takes care of some of the extra liability issues. So when I incorporated, it was based on liability issues and less on dollar amount. That's what I looked at. But you need to research the benefits of, because it lets you take money out of the business as an owner's draw at a lower tax rate than as being self-employed. But you spend more on an incorporation. To do a standard basic income tax return on a corporation, and you should have that done by a reputable company. Those are tricky to do by yourself, and CRA it's almost like you almost want them like stamped with an accountant. They can start around $2,000 to get a tax return done on a corporation. See, so there's pros and cons. So for us, you wouldn't incorporate until such time as you're earning enough income to offset that expense of a $2,000 incorporate fee. So that's where you need to kind of know the math and do a little bit of digging about what's the best for you. Okay. So that's helpful. I know there's a lot of little things to it. The best thing I always say is research. And like I said, I'm not an expert on things. I go a lot just by experience and having worked with other clients that have gone through these processes and what they found out.